How you going, you Goombas? Today we're going to be breaking down everything you should be picking up from the newest Pokémon TCG sets, Black Bolt and White Flare. These aren't your standard sets though, as there's no booster box or mass print runs being done. So if you're playing the game and not just chasing shinies, this video is going to save you some time, money, and maybe even a bit of sanity. We're going to be talking your staples, tech cards, deck upgrades, and even some potential rogue decks to keep an eye out for coming out of this set. Plus, we'll even cover the alternate formats, Gym Leader Challenge, and budget build battles. So if you're going to be cracking open packs though, don't worry, this video will also help you know what you should be keeping an eye out for when you do open up those packs. If you find this video helpful though, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with the content, because we're going to have more budget-friendly Pokemon content and single prize shenanigans around the corner each week. And let me know in the comments, are you Team Black Bolt or are you going to be on Team White Flare? Or maybe just chill and buy some singles. Now, before we jump into the card list, let me quickly explain why buying singles is going to be the way to go, especially for this set. First, the cards are going to be split between two different subsets, the White Flare and Black Bolt. So pulling everything you want from just one ETB, it's genuinely not possible. It's going to be slim odds, and second, with demand skyrocketing and resellers on the prowl, sealed product is vanishing, or worse, showing up at jacked up prices on the secondhand market. But single cards, they're still very accessible, and honestly, even more so than ever as more people are getting into the game, so more people are having extra copies of cards they don't need and then selling them off so that they can afford to buy more cards, keeping things very affordable for the competitive players. If you know what to look for, you can stay ahead of the meta and keep it budget friendly, and that's what today's video is going to help you out with. Also, just a quick heads up, trying to record this all live in one take, currently streaming over on Twitch, so if you do want to come catch me live, should be a link in the description so you can come on over there and do it. Do try to stream live on YouTube as well, but I'll be honest, not super consistent on hitting live on, both channels. So Twitch is probably the better one to catch me at. To kick things off though, we are going to be talking about the staple cards from this set. The main one I'm going to be talking about is Air Balloon, which is actually a reprinted card. It's a tool card you can attach to one of your Pokemon, and it's going to reduce the retreat cost of them by 2. Makes it great for allowing lots of cards to pivot that wouldn't normally be able to. So things like Raging Bolt, it's got True Retreat, may want to be able to bounce it to the bench and put a new one in the active if it's taken a bit of chip damage. Air Balloon lets you do that. Or potentially decks like Gold Engo, where they want to be moving a new one into the active so they can draw 2 cards, having it in the active spot. Yeah, great card to have in there. A number of other decks will want to include this, and it's almost an instant include if your deck already runs cards like Rescue Board, reduces the retreat cost by 1, this reduces it by 2. It's genuinely just a direct upgrade. Sometimes Rescue Board does make it free retreat, but like, honestly, tell me in the comments down below, when has that ever come up? Like, oh wait. The next staple card we're going to be talking about is Prism Energy. So this is also a reprint, I believe. The Pokemon that this is attached to, if it's a basic Pokemon, it's going to count as every single energy type when it's on there. So similar to Luminous Energy. Downside of Luminous Energy, if you have more than one special energy attached, Luminous Energy is just a colorless energy. Prism Energy doesn't say that. It just says, hey, it's only when it's on a basic. So for evolution decks, Prism Energy is not great. Luminous Energy is probably the way to go. But for, toolbox basic decks like Ethan's Ho-Oh, that's literally just like, hey, get Fire Energy in play, use Armor Rouge, move them up to the active, they can attack, use Luminous Energy to count as any other energy type so they can enable different attackers of various types. Prism Energy just slots into there and is like, hey, I'm Luminous Energy, but better. Because if you have Toomey in play, that's fine. So yeah. Solid card. Plus it counts as a fire energy, so Armor Rouge can still move it around. So yeah, that's pretty neat. Another card that it's also a reprint, but a genuine staple for the format. And whoops, hang on, clicking the wrong thing there. A genuine staple is going to be Tool Scrapper. So it lets you choose 2 Pokemon tools that are attached to your Pokemon, are attached to Pokemon, yours or the opponent's, and just discard them. So it's just an easy way to go like, hey, that Air Balloon we just talked about, get that out of play. Maybe your opponent has Defiance Band or some other sort of damage modifier, you can get rid of it, or something increasing their health like Bravery Charm. Yeah, Scrapper's just gonna go, well, scrap it. Literally, it's in the name of the card. And the fourth and final staple I'd say this set has is another tool card Scrapper could be bumping, and that's Brave Bangle. The attacks of the Pokemon this is attached to deal 30 more damage to your opponent's active EX Pokemon, so it's just a great damage modifier. Currently, we have Defiance banned in rotation. That is just a flat, hey, you do 30 more damage to your opponent's active, but only if you're behind on prizes. Brave Bengal just says, hey, you always do 30 more. I don't care about prizes. It's just, are you hitting an EX? And most of the times you need a little bit more oomph in your attacks. It's to hit an EX. So yeah, Brave Bengal is just, it's the way to go, guys. It's the future. All right, to give you a quick look at all these staple cards, though, do have this handy dandy list, as well as the card counts I think you'd be able, or should be looking at picking up. Brave Bengal would probably want about 2 of those. Tool Scrapper, same. Prism Energy, since you can have multiple in play, all counting as Rainbow Energy on your basics. Getting 4 of them is probably the way to go. It's just a great way to enable toolbox decks, or attacker box decks. And then Air Balloon, also 2 is probably a safe number. You could obviously just get 4 counts of these just in case it's like, hey, will a deck ever want a full play set of these? Now I have it. Air Balloon could be situational where you do want that, but I feel like 2 is probably enough to be justified. Yeah. The next cards we are going to be getting into, though, are the deck upgrades. So the first card I want to talk about, it's probably one you're going to hate seeing when it releases. It's Jellicent EX. This is going to be a great upgrade for Gardevoir EX because, well, it's a Psychic type Pokemon that they can enable. It's got an attack that costs 2 energy, so Gardevoir just goes, hey, Psychic Embrace 2 onto this. He does take 40 damage, so that's unfortunate, but now he's going to be doing 80 damage. And then you read the text of the attack, and it says, if it has at least 2 extra energy, do another 80. So then Gardevoir goes, it's fine, just Psychic Embrace 2 more onto him. Takes another 40, so all up, he's got 80 damage counters, or 8 damage counters on him, so it's not ideal, but now he can be doing 160 to the active. Now, the other nice thing about Gardevoir, though, is they like to run a lot of Monkey Dories. So the 8 damage counters that are on here, it's kind of just ammunition to scale up the damage output of Jellicent. You just use 3 Monkey Dories, move 8 off of it. Technically could move 9 if you did have a 9th damage counter on there. And all of a sudden, yeah, you're going from doing, what, 160 up to 240 or potentially 250. So you can be one-shotting things like Raging Bolt, or you can just be like picking apart things on their bench or setting up future KOs. It's very helpful. Another thing to keep note of here is the retreat cost being 3. So if your Jellicent doesn't get hit by your opponent and you're like, oh, I wish I had more damage counters, you can just hard retreat this, go into another Jellicent, Psychic Embrace more energy onto that Jellicent to make sure he's doing the full 160, and then you got those 8 damage counters for the Monkey Dories to be handing off again. And you can kind of just keep looping that. So that's terrifying. And the most terrifying thing about Jellicent, I haven't even mentioned yet, it's the ability C Curse. While this is in the active spot, your opponent can't play any item cards or tool cards from their hand. Yeah, so if you hate running into Budu, you're gonna have a bad time as soon as this card drops. Especially because it's gonna go in Gardevoir, which is already arguably the best deck in format. So yeah, it's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. So that means you can't be putting things like Bravery Charms onto your guys to make them outside of range of Jellicent's attacks, because he's just like, that's a tool card, you can't play that. You can't be running switch cards to move your guys around if Jellicent's trying to like half hit into you. It's like, no, you're hard retreating or you're getting hit again. And yeah, you're going to really struggle to get your board set up. So things like Rare Candy, that's gone. Buddy Puff and Ultra Ball, gone. Ace specs that are item cards, Prime Catcher, Unfair Stamp. Yeah, none of that. Yeah, Jellicent's kind of evil. Now, the other deck upgrade I want to talk about in here, it's going to be Reshiram. So Reshiram kind of coming in mostly for the Ho-Oh box deck we talked about. It's a basic fire Pokemon. It's an easy one to get charged up. You throw this into play, Ho-Oh can move, or Armarouge can move energy off Ho-Oh or off one of your Ethan's Pokemon up to the Reshiram, and you can start swinging. First attack only doing 50 damage isn't too crazy, but the second attack doing 130, and then 50 more damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. You do have to discard an energy from this Pokemon, but it's just like, discard one, cool, just manually attach another one next turn, that's fine. That scales up very, very quickly. If your opponent has taken 4 prize cards, that's an extra 200, you're doing 330. You're one-shotting a Dragapult, you're one-shotting a Charizard EX, you are, yeah, pretty intimidating basic Pokemon that can just get thrown down. The other nice thing is even this in Charizard could be relevant because it's like, hey, manually attach an energy for turn to your Charmander turn 1. Then by turn 2, you want to be going Rare Candy into a Zard, getting 3 energy from your deck. You check 1 on the Zard, you have 2 kind of floating that you can put anywhere. Check 1 on a Reshiram, then you manually attach another to a Reshiram, and it's like, my Zard is a pretty big beat stick that gets stronger the longer the game goes on, and my Reshiram is a very quick to set up basic backup attacker I have that effectively doing the same thing as Zard, but scaling up a little bit faster, right? At 4 prize cards, Zard is doing, come on brain, keep up, 300, whereas this is doing 330. So Zard's not one-shotting a Dragon Bolt or a Zard, Reshiram is. And then if they take 1 more prize, you're doing an extra 50, so you're getting up to 380. So it's kind of future-proofing Zard into like Megas, right? Megas are going to have a little bit more HP than that 320, 330 breakpoint number, and it helps you out. It also gives you a fire attacker, so it gives you a little bit of type coverage, so could be relevant in that aspect too. I know it is, Zard's kind of a deck that's fallen off, so I feel like this is mostly more beneficial for the Ho-Oh box deck, but could be relevant in Zard as well. Next deck upgrade we're going to talk about is one for you Steel deck enjoyers, and it is of course Genesect EX. Its ability Metal Signal makes it so once during your turn, you can just search your deck for up to 2 Steel evolution Pokemon and pop them into your hand. So it's kind of like Buddy Buddy Poffin, except not putting them into play and for evolutions, and it doesn't care about the amount of health. Pokemon Search is very powerful, right? Cards like Ultra Ball are just effectively an instant include at 4 counts in decks. Now you can basically go Nest Ball for Genesect to double Ultra Ball for evolution Pokemon, but I don't have to discard anything. That is so good. You thin your deck, you add consistency, and you're just enabling so many things, right? Like just getting those Pokemon out of your deck, even if you're not evolving into them, it's still big, right? Because then it's, hey, I'm drawing into other cards I wanted to. But the main thing is you're getting into those. So like Goldengo, it's going to love this card. Archaludon, it's going to love this card. Other Steel decks that haven't been released, when they come out, they're just going to be like, well, Genesect exists, so I'm just already out of the gate. Very consistent. Yeah, very cool card. Doesn't say you can only play one of these a turn either. So like if you wanted to go double Genesect into play and then search your deck for 4 Steel evolutions just to thin them all out of your deck, nothing saying you can't do that. So that's pretty cool. Could even be getting with Tangs. So getting you some energy acceleration for your Steel Pokemon too. Very, very cool. Rema, how are you doing, buddy? How are you doing? Yeah, Genesect, very cool cards. Next deck upgrade I want to talk about is similar to Reshiram, but kind of the opposite in Zekrom. So headliner for Black Bolt, obviously being the mascot legendary from the, I was about to say the Pokemon Black, but no, I think he was Pokemon White because they kind of had that contrasting thing where the back of the box was white and then the mascot was, yeah, black. But yeah, same attack in Slash doing 50 and same effectively attack with Voltage Burst. Does 130 base damage, then scales up by 50 for each prize card your opponent has taken. So yeah, it hits those same breakpoints as Reshiram, but it's lightning type. So Miraidon's gonna love this. It is just gonna have a field day. It's like, oh, I normally only hit like 220 and I lost Raichu. I don't really have a late game glass cannon. It's like, oh, now you do. You absolutely do. The Zekrom does do 30 damage to itself, so I think that's kind of the differentiating factor between it and the Reshiram. Reshiram discarded an energy. Zekrom's like, I punch myself in the face lightly. Cool. Everybody needs a hobby, I guess. And the next deck upgrade I want to talk about is also for Miraidon. It's getting a lot of love this set in Electrike. Effectively a reprint, but like kind of not. I don't think they're going to allow you to run the previous version of the Electrike just because of some slight differences in the wording. I believe it's around the fact that this is a proxy version, not the official translation, but the official translation I believe says basic lightning and the original one didn't. So it's the same card, but yeah, make sure that you pick up the new copy if you want to be running it. But the ability Dynamotor makes it so once during your turn, you can attach a lightning energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. May also sound familiar if you're new to the game. If you're like, I've never seen Electrike before. What are you talking about? It's a reprint. It's also Flaffy, which was basically Electrike, but on a sheep. Same HP, same ability, same attack. Yeah. Same, but different. So Electrike just making it a great way to get energy in play for your Miraidons, right? You don't want to be going Electro Generator. Maybe I hit energy. You want to be going, I Ultra Ball away to lightning energy. My Ultra Ball gets me an Electrike. Electrike gets me a lightning energy onto my bench. I'm charging up my attackers. we're having a good time. And you can constantly re-access that energy, right? Your active Pokemon gets knocked out, energy goes in the bin, put something in the active with free retreat like Mew EX or something with an air balloon, and then Electrike goes, okay, cool, charge up my next attacker, pivot into it, let's get going again. So yeah, very, very cool card. To take a look at all of the deck updates we've just talked about. Oops, not you, Zekrom. Well, you are around here, but not at the front. The deck updates there. So we've got the pre-evolution, the Frillish for the Jellicent, and the pre-evolution Dynamo for the Electrike showing on here as well. So you obviously need the pre-evolutions to be able to run them in the decks. The Reshiram and Zekrom, I feel like you probably just need one copy of each. They're mostly for in the late game. So like if they get prized, you're likely getting them out of the prizes before you need to be using them. The Genesect, I feel at a 2 count is probably all you're needing for your decks, really. It's just like, hey, Nest Ball for it, get your evolutions out of your deck. You don't need 3 or 4 of these on your bench ever. It's like you just need one. Having a second one, just so if one does end up in the prizes, you're still able to access the other one and get your board online very quickly, I think is going to be the way to go, though, for sure. Now, the next cards we're going to be talking about are cards that are kind of just like worth having, like the tech cards, right? So the ones where it's like, you're going to want this in your binder for those situations where all of a sudden, hey, this becomes like a necessary staple. But currently, it's kind of just like, keep it on your radar. So if you pull these, keep them. If you have a little bit of a disposable income and you just want to have all the things that potentially are like, hey, this is likely to be good. Like it's a good tech card to have. Just need to get like 1 or 2 copies of these. These are the ones we're going to be talking about. So the first one we're going to start off talking about is kind of debatable. So like, if you view it differently, let me know in the comments. Guys on Twitch right now, you can heckle me for this, but I think Volcarona is actually pretty legit. It has the ability Scorching Scales. Once during your turn, you can discard a basic fire energy from your hand, and you can burn your opponent's active. So the nice thing about burn, it's a way to modify your damage output, right? Makes it so between turns, they're taking 20. They have to flip a coin. If it's tails, that burn sticks around. So it's like, hey, comes back, they're taking another 20. The other nice thing about burn is if you're just using a straight up damage modifier like the Bangle, where it's like, hey, you do 30 more damage to hit that breakpoint number to take a KO, that's great, but you are knocking them out with an attack. So then your opponent goes Pheasantipity, draw 3. If you just need 10 or 20 more damage, burn's getting you that breakpoint number, but then you're not knocking them out with an attack. They're getting knocked out in Pokemon Checkup. So Pheasantipity is not online. So you're kind of shutting that down. So that's why I like Volcarona. Obviously, it is going to be very situational. It's mostly fire decks that can be running this, but I think having a 1-1 or potentially a 2-2 just to play it safe for your collections and in your binders, this is going to be a card that I do think will see play in its standard rotation run. Zen Volcanion seems better, no? Yes and no. Volcanion, you need a way to get it into the active, and then it's a 2-prizer sitting on your bench kind of awkwardly. This, it's like, hey, it's a single prizer. If you open the pre-evolution and you don't need it in play, it's kind of whatever. It's just skewing the prize trade potentially for your opponent. If you open Volcanion, yes, you can just go like, okay, well, I trigger the ability, I do a bit of chip damage to you, but then your opponent goes Ogre Pawn, Teal Dance, Sada attached to a Raging Bolt, switch into it, bonk, I take 2 prizes, and it's like, oh, that was bad. If they do that into a Larvesta, you're kind of like, that's fine. You still have to take out 3 more 2-prizers. A lot of decks run Latias, that's true. A lot of decks do run Latias, so there is that flexibility for the Volcanion. Okay. Same, but different. I guess Volcanion takes up less deck space too. I don't know. I still like the Volcarona. I'd say having a 1-1 for your binder just to play it safe, worth having. But yeah, as Zen is pointing out, there is already an alternative. So that's kind of the nice thing about these buy lists, though. I'm not telling you you need these cards. It's kind of to help you form an opinion. And then you can take that information and go, hey, I think this would come up. Or I see the alternative and kind of like the alternative for what it is. So yeah, no, fair. Very good call outs, Zen. Very good call outs. The next text we are going to talk about, though, this one, I don't know. I don't think you're going to argue this one, Zen. Alola Mola. 1, very fun name to say. 2, very cool ability and good amount of health on it. So having 110 HP on a basic Pokemon, nice. Has a little bit of heft to it. If you're opening it up, you're not really like super concerned that it's going to get knocked out immediately if your opponent's just kind of like poking you with something. Unless, yeah, they're poking you with a Raging Bolt, then it's not really a poke. They're kind of just smashing you with a dinosaur. But the ability on here, Gentle Fins, makes it so once during your turn, if this is in the active spot, you can put a basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less from your discard pile right back onto your bench. So it's sort of like a Night Stretcher just for your basics. So if you have evolution decks and you know you're going to be wanting to rerun some of those guys, or maybe you just go very aggressive with discard in the early game, like running things like Carmine, lots of Ultra Balls, etc. Squawkabillies, like looking at you, Sarah Ledge, you're wanting to discard most of your deck. You can kind of just go, yeah, some of these Char Cadets are now just discard fodder for me. That's an acceptable thing. And then a Alola can get them back. That's pretty cool. Also for alternate formats that focus on single prize shenanigans. Talking about you, budget build battles. This card's going to be sick. Absolutely sick. Yeah, I like it. I don't know. If anyone says anything different, you're welcome to an opinion, but I would highly recommend having at least one copy of this for your collection. Next one we're going to talk about is Meloetta EX. The ability on here, Live Premiere, makes it so that this Pokemon can attack on the first turn of the game. Normally, first turn of the game, you can't play supporters, you can't attack. There's a couple supporters that break that rule, and now there's this Pokemon that breaks that rule as well. The attack on here, Echoed Voice, does 30 damage, so if your opponent opens a Budu, you can take it out before it item locks you. Or you can even attach TMs to these, right? You can attach a TM to Meloetta. It's technically an attack. It doesn't say it can only use the attack Echoed Voice the first turn of the game. It says it can attack. Check an Evo TM on here. All of a sudden you're going Evo TM, turn my Dreepies into Dracloaks. Next turn, turn my Dracloaks into Dragapults. Or any other stage 2s, right? It can enable a number of decks, potentially even like Blaziken decks, right? You can just be like, hey, I need my Kentucky Fried Chicken out ASAP. It's a way to enable that. So yeah, very interesting card and opens up some very interesting archetypes. Another TM to consider would be something like Turbo Energize. So maybe you just want to be able to go, hey, I need 2 Dark Energy for a Monkey Dories real quick. Yeah, as early as turn 1 of the game going first, you could be getting that play set up. So yeah, I feel like it's definitely a good card to have one copy of for your binder. Next up, we've got this one I'm kind of on the fence about. I think having a 2-1-2 line just to play it safe, though, is probably a good call, and that's Embor. The ability on here, Inferno Fandango, it's effectively a rain dance thing, right? We have Excalibur that lets you play as many water energy from your hand to your Pokemon in play. Embor is just doing that, but in red. So yeah, there'll be a lot of Firebox decks that potentially come out because of Embor. We do already have the Ho-Oh Armarouge combo, though, so it's like, do I run a basic to accelerate fire energy into play and then a stage 1 to move them to where I want? Or do I just run a stage 2 to put them wherever I want? It's kind of one of those things. If the deck space required for both engines is pretty much the same, one is just, hey, I'm using 1 bench space, whereas the other is you're using up 2 bench spaces. This one, you also likely need rare candy to get it online. So if you're worried about getting item locked, the Ho-Oh Armor is probably the way to go. If you're more worried about just like, hey, I want to have more bench space for more utility Pokemon to be in play or to focus on my attackers, Embor is probably going to be the way to go. So it's just another engine to enable that archetype of just, yeah, big burn boys. Another stage 2 worth picking up a copy of, or ideally 2, would be Samurott. So 160 HP on here and a very interesting ability. Effectively like Escape Rope. I believe the mechanic does work almost in reverse of it though. So once during your turn, you may switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. If you do, your opponent switches their active Pokemon with one of their bench. So it's not like you're telling your opponent, hey, tell me what you're putting in the active and that I get to hit, and then I'm going to pick what Pokemon I put in the active to hit it. You're going, hey, I'm putting this in the active. It's going to take a knockout now. What are you effectively offering up to me? So it's kind of switching it up. The attack on here being very interesting as well, doing 30 base damage, then scaling up by 50 for each energy attached to this Pokemon. So if you pair this with Excalibur, put a bunch of water energy on it, can be doing some pretty silly numbers. Takes a while to get online though. So 6 energy on here, you're doing 330 to take out a Dragapult. Feels like a bit of an overcommitment. I think that Excalibur Chin-Pow is still just the way to go, because that's 1 stage 2 in a basic that gets energy out of the deck, whereas this would be 2 stage 2s. Doesn't care about the energy type though, so you could be pairing this with potentially the Ho-Oh Armarouge or Matangs. stuff like that. So yeah, interesting card to play around with. I think it's mostly for the ability though is what makes it very unique. So 1/1 line could be an interesting little tech into decks that kind of want to be pivoting around and just to disrupt your opponent a bit. Zen, this one you don't think it's a good card? No? I think it's got potential. I think as a 1/1 line for your binder as a tech option, it's good. Like I see this as down the line, it's got a lot of potential. Out of the gate, agreed. I don't think there's any decks this will immediately slot into, but I think it's got the bones. It's got the skeleton of being a great card. All right, next tech card we're going to talk about. Also kind of similar vein. I think this one has potential, could potentially be slotted into the Ho-Oh box, and that's Keldeo EX, mostly for the second attack, Sonic Edge. So it does 120 base damage, and this attack's damage isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's a shred attack, great way to get through something like Mimikyu that says, I don't take damage from EX Pokemon. You go, well, you take damage from this because I don't care about that effect. And then they go, oh, I put a Bravery Charm on. I have 120 HP now. And you go, cool, I do 120. You're still getting taken out. There is some larger EX walls now, though. So we've got, what's his face? I think there's a Sylveon that's immune to EXs. There's a Crustle that's immune to EXs. And then I believe there's even some EXs that are like immune to EXs. It's Frigoraph. Frigoraph's immune to like basic EXs. So Keldeo would still be able to get through that because of their shred effect. So yeah, could be an interesting one to help out if you're concerned about wall decks and want an answer to them. Next up, we're going to talk about another one that's like interesting tech. I feel like this is just waiting for the right partner, but that's Kling Klang. So 150 HP on here. It is a stage 2, so you're going to have to rare candy to this. But the ability on here, Gear Coating, makes it so each of your Pokemon with any steel energy attached to them take 20 less damage from your opponent's Pokemon's attacks. Doesn't say the ability doesn't stack, so you could be running multiples of these. Potentially 4 in play, you're taking 80 less damage. Don't think that's ever really going to be necessary, but if you want ways to kind of get outside of breakpoint numbers, Kling Klang could be useful for your steel type decks. We do have Full Metal Lab that's already a stadium that says your steel Pokemon take 30 less damage. They can bump the stadium. Dealing with the Kling Klang, they're having to Gust KO this or devolve it. And then it's like, cool, your attack return was used on the Kling Klang instead of on my big attacker. I'm fine with that. So it's just an alternative that you can use to that, or even combine both of them, right? Like this and Full Metal Lab, you would be able to combine. So potentially for this Full Metal Lab, you're taking what, 110 less damage from attacks? That's a little nutty. So I feel like as we see more EX Pokemon, especially like more Steel Pokemon coming out, potentially Mega Steelix, I feel like that'll be one we see. Maybe it's like a big tanky guy. Kling Klang could be a great partner with that. Even Archaludon to help you get outside of some breakpoint numbers or in the late game with cards like Zekrom becoming a thing where it's like, hey, I want to make sure I have enough HP that this isn't knocking me out when I'm down to 2 prizes remaining. Could be a great way to help out with that. And we've got, for the trainer cards, just one that I'd think is a good tech card to make sure you have, because a lot of them are already staples, and that's going to be Hilda. This lets you search your deck for an evolution Pokemon and an energy card. You reveal them and just put them right into your hand. So we have a lot of these just targeted supporters. All of them have been good, right? Colress to get you an energy and a stadium, Arven to get you a tool and an item, Hilda to get you an evolution and an energy. Main deck I'm thinking of for this would be Dragapult, going, hey, I need a Dragapult and I want a Neo Upper Energy so I can start attacking. Great, you can get that. There is also a new energy that is an amazing tech card as well. And I feel like it'll be niche use cases for some rogue decks. That's going to be Ignition Energy. The attacks are, you can attach this to one of your Pokemon, but at the end of your turn, it's going to get discarded. If it's attached to a basic Pokemon, counts as just a colorless energy. If it's attached to an evolution Pokemon, counts as a triple colorless energy. So decks like Wugtrio suddenly becomes a bit more viable, right? It's been previously relying on reversal energy, so being behind on prizes before it can start doing stuff. Ignition Energy gives it a way to start getting out of the gate a little bit earlier in the game. Also, this is Porygon Z from the recent Destined Rivals set. It's just another energy for them to be able to use, right? They've got Team Rocket Energy for Porygon Z, and then for the Porygon 2, they were using Reversal Energy. Ignition Energy is just a way to go, hey, I don't mind if I'm ahead in prizes. I have another way to get my attackers online, so really like this. Single prize decks, you're basically banking on, hey, it's going to get knocked out anyways. So the fact that this energy gets discarded at the end of the turn isn't really a downside. You've still got the 4 rocket energy. You've got 4 of these. You have the means of getting 8 attacks off. You should be fine. You only need 6 prizes. So even as a single prize matchup, you're good. And into one where you're taking 2 prizes with each KO, you're just more reliably getting your attackers online. So for the full list of the tech cards that I'd be recommending that you pick up, that's going to be these ones there. We do have the pre-evolution showing here for the Samurott, for the Embor, so it looks a little bit bigger. And one supporter card showing on here I didn't mention is Fennel. I think getting 1 copy of this could be useful as well. It's a supporter that just effectively heals, I believe it was 40 HP from all of your Pokemon in play. So if you're scared of spread decks, Frostlass decks, or even pings from things like Munkidori and Dragapult, it's just a way that, like, your opponent's trying to set up numbers, you just go, yeah, nah, get rid of those. Josh, now you're curious, can Ignition Energy cover Yanmega's Move 3 energy requirement? I'd have to give the card another read, because Ignition Energy is counting as 3 energy. So if it's saying Move 3 energy, yes, it would cover the cost. If it's saying Move 3 energy cards, no, it wouldn't, because it needs to fulfill the physical cards moving. But yeah, like, it's counting as 3 energy in value. It's just not counting as 3 physical energy cards. So if it doesn't say cards in the effect, you'd be good. All right, next up, we are going to be talking about, what do I got next? Cards that could be good. So the text, those are ones where it's like, I'd highly recommend just picking these up, because I'm saying in the time that they're out, they will be playable. They're good ones to have in your binder. They will be coming up. These are the cards where it's like, they've got potential if the right partner comes out. And you know what? Reflecting on some of the texts, I guess that's kind of a similar thing. Like the Samurott and the Embor, maybe they're just could be good. Even the Kling Klang is probably just a could be good in hindsight. I'll own that one. But first card that could be good, it's going to be Superior EX. So it is the only one of the Unova starters that got an EX card. The ability on here, Royal Cheer, makes it so the attacks of your Pokemon do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's a great damage modifier, and it doesn't care about types, right? So it's not like, oh, the attacks of your grass Pokemon or fire Pokemon. It's just the attacks of your Pokemon do more damage. So if you really want to pump up numbers, Superior could be helpful. We do have just tool cards to do that though, right? We've got Volcanion that can burn them, boost it up 20 damage. We've got the Volcarona that does that. Now we've got the Bangle that gives you an extra 30 damage into EXs. So I feel like we already have things kind of filling this role without needing to get a stage 2 prizer into play. But potentially Superior could come up because you can stack these, right? So 4 of these in play, you're increasing the damage output by 80. That's kind of cheeky. The attack on here, though, doing 150 energy, and then you get to search your deck for 3 cards and put them into your hand. Could be brought online with the Ignition Energy, so Grass and an Ignition Energy, search your deck for 3 cards, help set up to have other attackers getting online or recover that energy requirement of this attack. It's kind of like a beefed up version of Greninja, but requiring 4 energy to use the attack, whereas Greninja just needs 1. Greninja does 170, gets 2 cards. This does 150, gets 3 cards, but yeah, being a little bit heftier. I guess technically does do 170 because of the ability though, so. Same as Greninja, 1 more card. A lot more setup though. The next card that could be good, it's going to be a single prize attacker that I feel like could come up in some situations. So Victini for Firebox decks could be very useful. It does 120. So yeah, if you run into an EX wall and you just want a single prizer to help you get through it, Victini could be your go-to. Charizard could run this. Ho-Oh Box could run this. The reason I'm going to say it could be good though is Charizard already has Charmeleon. So if your opponent's running Mimikyu, it's just like, hey, Charmeleon deals with that. If they're running one of the slightly heftier EX walls though, like Sylveon, I think has 110 HP. Victini gets through that. If they're running the Crustle, it's weak to fire. Victini gets through that. Yeah, could be relevant. And then next up, we're going to talk about this one. I like the concept of it. I just don't know if it does enough. And that's the Cubchoo. The attack on here is snot covered, does 10 base damage, which is basically nothing. But it makes it so during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't attack. It doesn't say pick one of their attacks, they can't use that. It just outright says they can't attack. So even if they have 2 attacks, like Dragapult, right, where they can do 70 or they can do 200, like if you go, hey, you can't use Phantom Dive, oh cool, I'll just use Jet Headbutt or whatever and deal with your PUBG. You go, no, you can't attack at all. It forces them to hard retreat out. So could be relevant, especially if you're running high counts of things like item denial, like Eerie. So if you're concerned about them using Switch, you go Eerie, sack the items from their hand. If you're concerned about them using Air Balloon, you go Tool Scrapper, you pop their balloons, and then eventually they're having to manually retreat and lose all their energy. You'd also be running this with Crushing Hammers, Giovanni's Charisma, things like that, and kind of like just disrupting their energy in play, so just burning them out of their resources. I feel like there's potential for a control deck with this. Might be a bit of a Hail Mary. There's probably better options for control, but I could see this being good. I'm not a control player though, so probably have to talk to an actual control player and they'll be like, oh yeah, this is great, or like, it's kind of mid. I see it having potential. I'm not saying this is going to be a deck. This is just one to like keep on your radar. You pull this from your packs, hanging onto a playset isn't the worst idea. Next one that could be good, Kyurem EX. So similar to the legendaries, we've got Zekrom and Reshiram. They've all got the same attacks of base 50 damage, base 130 damage with some additional thing, and the additional thing is always tied to prizes. This one also scaling up damage based on the amount of prizes your opponent's taken, but instead of doing it to the active, you're going to be doing chip damage to the bench. So 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon for each prize card your opponent has taken. On paper, yeah, sounds all right. If they have a bunch of little things on their board, you can be beating them up. If they have a bunch of little things on their board, though, they're likely not rule box Pokemon. They're likely running Shaman for potentially this card existing. So, yeah, not ideal. The other thing to be worried about is Terra Pokemon. Terra Pokemon literally say, I don't take damage on the bench. So if you're trying to just like beat up your opponent's board state and then devolve them, that's also kind of not there, right? Like into Dragapult, they just go, you just don't hit my Dragapults. Like you'd be hitting their other things, like if they've got Phesantipides in play, but late game, if you're doing 40 damage to a bench Pheasantipede, it's not really enough to be relevant. You want to be doing like 40 damage to the Dracloaks, another 40 damage to the Dracloaks if they don't one-shot you to, you know, close out the game, and then you devolve their whole board and win. But the fact that Terra Pokemon just ignore damage is like, probably not great. Once Terra Pokemon rotate though, in what, 2 years? Kyurem becomes a little bit better. Shaman will still exist though, but it would be like into Megas. Yeah, you can hit them a few times, devolve them into their pre-evolutions that have like 60, 70 HP. Yeah, not a bad shout. So potentially I could see Kyurem being good in the future. At release, I don't think it's going to be a good card though. If you pull it, hang on to a copy, but yeah, I wouldn't say like rush out the door to get this card. Emolga, also one of those cards, if you pull it, good. Limited formats, I feel like this would be great. Like at pre-release, this would be amazing. This is a promo set though, so there's no pre-release, so that's amazing. But the attack on here, Call for Family, lets you search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon, put them onto your bench. We have this on a number of Pokemon already. The benefit of Emolga though, it's got 70 HP, so you can get it with Poffin, and it's got free retreat. So after it gets your basic Pokemon out that you want, if this doesn't get knocked out, you can then pivot into them when they've likely evolved up into much more threatening things. So just could be a useful little bit of setup play. For formats like GLC, I think they already have an Emolga that is literally this Emolga, like same attack, same HP, same retreat. But for budget build battles, I think this Emolga would be very, very useful to help a lot of decks get online, and the free retreat is honestly just a good pivot Pokemon to be able to run as well. The next card that could be good is gonna be Thundurus. 120 HP on a basic, so it's got a little bit of heft. The attack Charge lets you search your deck for a basic lightning energy attached to this Pokemon. The second attack does 110 damage. You do have to discard an energy from this Pokemon. The reason I'm going to say this could be good is as a single prize attacking option for the Electrike decks, right? So Electrike's likely going to be paired with Miraidon. Miraidon's an EX Pokemon. If you run into an EX wall, you need something to get through it. Thundurus doing 110. It's pretty good, right? Gets through a Mimikyu. It doesn't get through a Mimikyu that has a Bravery Charm, so you make sure that you have a Tool Scrapper. Come on, brain, you can keep up. So it gives you a way around that and can get through things like Sylveon and the Crustle as well. Also, Jam Jar. Sorry, man, I didn't see you popping up in chat. How are you doing? Typically, basic Pokemon like this will have something like Memory Skip Ralts, where they'll be frail and stop a single attack, saying you can't attack for something so cheap it's decent. The old Emolga's Call family didn't cost an energy ability. Oh, okay, so the Emolga's not a direct reprint then is what you're saying. Ooh, all right. Little Tone, how are you doing, man? How are you doing? All right, Thundurus we talked about. We are into the Vulture, the Mandibuzz. I think this could be good. I think it could be very useful for control decks, right? Because a lot of them are trying to be like, hey, you're doing something to lock my Pokemon in the active. I'm just going to avoid benching multiple things. Currently, control decks have Accompanying Flute, where it's like, look at the top 5 cards of their deck, grab basic Pokemon there, put them on the bench. If you don't hit any basic Pokemon, though, it's not doing anything. Mandibuzz is repeatable, and it's from their hand. So if they're holding basic Pokemon to be like, oh, I don't want him hitting with the flute, Mandibuzz goes, you need to get that in the discard pile, or I'm going to get it on your bench. And that's kind of evil. And you can use it every single turn. For standard, I think having a 1/1 copy of this could be useful in some decks, or going very heavy in it with control decks could be kind of funny. The other thing is for budget build battles, I think this would be very disruptive. Something to keep in mind, it does only get Pokemon with 70 HP or less though. So it's like, oh, you found a Pheasantipity or a Squawkabilly in their hand. It's not like you can just pull that onto the bench and be like, okay, gust that up, knock it out. It's just to get like pre-evolution things. So it could be helpful to get into like little targets too. Like maybe your opponent's running Budu, you're running Munkidori, it's the middle of the game, they don't want to bench the Budu, you go Mandibuzz, pull it from your hand, put it into the bench, Munkidori put 3 damage counters on there, cool, I get a prize, and then I still have my attack return, so that could be an interesting way to use this card as well. The next card that I'm going to say, I want this to be good. I feel like someone will make a rogue deck with it, and that's why it's like, with the right build, there's potential, and that's the Archeops. So the ability on here, Primal Wings, makes it so one stringer return. If this is in the active spot, you can choose one of your Pokemon, or one of your opponent's evolved Pokemon and devolve it. So if your opponent's very dependent on rare candy, and you know, hey, they've used all 4, you devolve their stage 2s, they're gonna have a very bad time. Or if you're doing some chip damage shenanigans, like running Frostlass and just hitting everything with abilities, Archeops having an ability too, so you're using Munkidori, moving counters off it and the Munkidori itself onto your opponent's evolved Pokemon. Then you devolve them and all of a sudden they're knocked out. Yeah, cool concept for sure. We've also got some other fighting types I'd like to mention, mostly just because they're kind of to help out with EX walls, right? We're seeing a lot of that in this set. It's Sock. So it's got the attack Elbow Strike, does 30 base damage. You can deal with Budus. It's got the attack Rising Chop, does 90 base damage, but only into Pokemon EX. If it hits anything else, it's doing nothing. This is just one of those cards where it's kind of nice. It's an easy basic to put down. It's 1 energy to use the attack. It's not bad, right? So if you're running a fighting type deck that's heavily reliant on evolutions, like maybe Cynthia's Garchomp as an example, and it's just kind of struggling to have backup attackers, you can just kind of go, oh, my Garchomp got knocked out, I have something for retreat, bench a Sock, pivot into it, do 90 damage to finish off that thing. Not to mention fighting types are getting a new item card. I believe it's going to be coming out in Mega Brave and Mega Symphonia that does boost up their attack damage, so potentially just having Sock to be able to like half hit into things wouldn't be too bad either. The other single prize fighting Pokemon that I think could be worthwhile to have as like a tech backup attacker is Terrakion. So 140 HP on here, a little bit bulky. The attack on there though, Retaliate, for fighting in a colorless, does 50 base damage. But if any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack of your opponent last turn, 80 more. So it does 130. So it's kind of similar to the Sock and just like, hey, something got knocked out, I need something to respond. It's a basic, you can throw it down very quickly. If you have any form of energy acceleration, you can get this charged up and you kind of just do a little bit of finish up damage. These are cards where it's like, if you pull them from a pack, hang on to a copy. If they're like 50 cents, maybe pick up a copy just to play it safe. But yeah, I don't know. You don't need full play sets of these ones. It's just like they have potential. The last one I want to talk about is Energy Coin. You get to flip 2 coins. If both of them are heads, search your deck for 1 basic energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon in play. This is a card that it's like, hey, you have 58 or 59 cards of a deck. You just need something to slot in, chuck this in there. It's just like cheap energy acceleration you can be running. If you want to go all in on a turbo deck, same thing, you could be running this, right? Like I think there was a Miraidon build that was running energy sticker for a while where it was like, flip a coin, if heads, get an energy from the discard pile, put it onto one of your guys. Energy coins, just that, but you don't need to get it into the discard pile. You just have to hit double heads. Raspberry, how you doing? Where's your Inquisition? Apologies, man. I think I've got like the green screen things turned off for this one, just because, yeah, I'm using this to kind of get a YouTube video ready to record. So I just have to, at the end of stream, just cut out this section and can just go direct to post. So sorry about the alerts are currently off though. But yeah, how you doing, man? How are you doing? And for the full list of the cards that I think like could be good, that's these ones here. Something I did not mention is the Stoutland. Kind of mixed on it. It's another interesting card for control players, but I don't know. I kind of changed my mind on it. Forgot to change this image though, but it could be good. So these are ones, yeah, if you're pulling them from packs, hang on to copies, maybe pick up one copy if they're like 25, 50 cents, hang on to them. The art shops probably want 2 energy coins, could get a place out of them too if you wanted. And the Superior, I don't know. I'm very mixed on the Superior. I'm very mixed. The next cards we're going to talk about though are the ones that I'm going to say are going to be impactful for the Gym Leader Challenge format. These ones, there is quite a few of them, so I don't think we're going to go through one by one. Just going to have them pop up on the screen with that full list view for you and kind of give a very quick run through of them. And then it's up to you what you really want to jump into. We've got a new Petalil that has 60 HP and the attack Hide. You get to flip a coin and potentially just be invincible, which is good. So if you're running Lilligant, I think this is just going to be the new go-to basic for you. The Victini, we've already talked about it. The Alola Mola, we've talked about as well. They're just great for the formats like that. Just having a cheap attacker to get online with the Victini and Alola Mola giving you some solid recovery. The Tortuga, for standard, I don't think it does enough because there's going to be decks that are already playing around it, but it's got an attack that scales up by 30 damage for each item card in your opponent's discard pile. For a Gym Leader Challenge, Pokemon have a lot less HP. You don't need to be hitting ridiculous like 330 damage. For GLC, doing like 150 is pretty good. So if there's 5 item cards in your opponent's discard pile, 1 water energy, you can be getting 1 shots. It's nice. Swanna also showing up in here. It's got the attack Air Slash. There is Flynium Z, so you could effectively give Swanna a GX attack that does, I think it's 220 damage and makes it invincible on the following turn. So yeah, that's pretty solid. Zoroark showing up in here with the attack Mind Jack, does 30 damage. 30 damage as a multiplier, scaling up by the amount of bench Pokemon your opponent has in play. 1 Dark Energy to get that attack online, so potentially doing 150 damage very easily. It's a nice one to be able to use, and the second attack lets you copy an attack from your opponent. So also a great attack to be able to use. 3 energy to get it online though, but we've got things like Dark Patch in GLC, so you can very quickly charge that up. All right. Some other attackers to note here. We've got Gothitelle, has an ability that lets you, I'd probably have to pull that one up. Lets you do some stuff. I believe it makes it so you can force your opponent to shuffle their hand into their deck and then draw 3 cards. And then the second attack doing 90 base damage and 90 more damage if you have the same amount of cards in your hand as your opponent. So 180 if you can get down to a 3-card hand to match your opponent. The Runiculus is effectively just a honorary Torterra. The first attack on it lets you search your deck for a Pokemon that evolves from a Pokemon you have in play for every single one of your bench Pokemon, right? So if you have 5 guys in play, you could effectively be doing Evo TM for your entire board. And the second attack scaling up by 40 damage for each evolution Pokemon in play. It starts at a base damage of 40, counts itself. So with a full board of 5 plus itself, you're doing what? 6 times 4, effectively 7 times 4, 280. That's a nice number to be able to hit. We've also got Ignition Energy in here. Talked about that one earlier, and Hilda I think is going to be great for the Gym Leader Challenge format. Now, if you like single prize shenanigans, but you don't like the fact that you're limited to just running 1 type and 1 copy of a card in your deck, and playing an expanded can be a little bit tricky finding, copies of some older cards, we've got the Budget Build Battles format. So it's played in the standard format. You're allowed to run 2 copies of a card that have the same name, basic Pokemon that evolve too. You can have 1 extra copy of the basic for each stage of the evolution to help out with consistencies, so big basics don't dominate the format, and evolution decks are pretty viable. You're also not limited to the types of Pokemon you run, so yeah. Makes some interesting diversity, and it doesn't make it so like every type just has a specific engine it's going to run. It gives you like some creative opportunity. I just said opportunity. It doesn't sound like a great word to double back to. Anyhow, if you haven't tried out budget build battles already, what are you doing? It's got 3 Bs in it. It's got triple B in the title of the format. So the cards that I think are going to be good for that, there's a lot of them. Yeah, I almost think I need to make a dedicated video to go over all of these. A lot of them we have already touched on though. So the Petalil's in there, the Lilligant. You know what? We might even just jump into these one by one. If you guys are, sticking around this late into the video, you're probably like, you know what? I'm invested in this dude. He seems cool. We're going to hang out. And you know what? We're going to hang out. We're talking budget build battles, guys. The Lilligant in here, it's got the attack B Musing Aura. Does 30 base damage, then you're going to flip a coin. If it's heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is paralyzed, so they're not doing anything. They can't attack you, they can't retreat. They can evolve to remove the effect or use switch cards to remove the effect, but effectively they're just sitting there waiting to get hit again, and you're poisoning them. So they're also taking 10 more damage between turns. Which is nice. You can boost up that poison damage with some stuff too if you want, like Pearliest Jungle, make it take a little bit more of a hit. And then if it's Tails though, it's not going to do nothing. It's just going to make it so your opponent's active Pokemon's confused instead. So they're not taking 10 damage between turns. They can technically hard retreat out to remove the status condition. It's not like paralysis. They are able to move still. But if they decide, you know what, I don't care that I'm confused, I'm going to try and swing at you. If they flip Tails when they try and attack, they're hitting themselves in the face for 30. So you're doing potentially 30 damage instead of potentially just 20 damage from the poison hitting them going to their turn and 10 on the way back as well. So yeah. Cheeky little bit of a play. The second attack on there, it costs 3 energy. It hits for 70. It's an attack. You're using it for the first attack. Let's be real. And if you really like status condition shenanigans, we're also getting an Amoonguss. Or maybe you just like the game Among Us and you want to, play that in Pokemon. You can do that. The attack on here, Dangerous Reaction, does 30 base damage, so similar to Lilligant. But if your opponent's active Pokemon is affected by a special condition, 120 more. So if you're poisoning them, and then you're hitting them in the face really hard, you're likely pairing this with Brute Bonnet. So Brute Bonnet poisons both active Pokemon. So it enables the extra damage from Amoonguss's attack. It also lets you go Binding Mochi on the Amoonguss to make it hit a little bit harder. And then you've just got 2 versions of Amoonguss effectively in play, because Brute Bonnet's just Amoonguss, but a much grumpier Amoonguss. The next attacker for budget build battles, this one we've already talked about a few times. I'll just show it to you a little quick though. It's Victini. I think it'll be a great option for that format as well. You're likely going to be leaning into fire decks that can accelerate out energy though, so that's probably where the Emboar, if you're trying to make like a firebox deck, Victini could be a good attacker for you. Tortuga, for budget build battles, I think it's going to be great. Scaling up by 30 for each item card in your opponent's discard pile. This can hit some pretty solid numbers. It can be taking easy one-shots in the mid to late game, and the cheap attack cost is definitely relevant. There is another Karrascosta you can evolve into that I believe increases your damage output. I could be wrong, but even the Karrascosta from this set is pretty good. So its ability, Mighty Shell, makes it so that you don't take any damage or effects from your opponent's Pokemon that have any special energy attached to them. We're seeing a lot of Luminous energy in the format right now because it enables Munkidori, it enables Okidogi. They're pretty scary. Karrascosta just goes like, nah, I don't care. The Munkidori can still be using Adrena Brain to put counters on you, but they can't be coming up and like trying to hit you and confuse you and buy a bit of time. You just go like, yeah, you silly monkey. Now I'm just going to hit you in the face with a turtle. Yeah. Interesting card. I feel like mostly you'd be running this with the Tortuga though, and Relicanth. So it's like, cool, my Tortuga now just has more HP. And if you have special energy attached, you're just not hitting me. So yeah, I like it. I like it. Jamdar, interesting thing to note about Tortuga is that currently running a deck that has 12 items in it, honestly, very easy to play around that kind of attack. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think for standard, I don't think Tortuga does enough. because people are already playing around Budu. They're already playing around, they're going to be starting to play around Jellicent more. So standard, I don't think it's going to be great. GLC, budget build battles, I think they're going to be solid cards. So you don't have to hit as high of a benchmark number to take knockouts. Couple items in the discard, 5 items in the discard, you're doing 150. Seems relevant. The other one I want to talk about is the Bear Tick. So this one, same thing with the Cub Chew, right? Makes this a can't attack. You're going to be running this with Relicanth, so Bear Tick can be using Cub Chew's attack. It does 10 damage and they just can't hit you. It does also have the attack Sheer Cold for 4 energy during your opponent's next turn. The defending Pokemon can't attack, so it's just a stronger Cub Chew that needs a lot more energy. If you're doing 150 damage in a single prize format though, they likely can't attack during their next turn because they are unalived. Like, how can I say this nicely? Unalived. You're unaliving them with this polar bear. But yeah, we've already talked about the Cub Chew, so I'll just kind of skim over that. Emolga, I also think would be great for budget build battles. And the Runiculus, we did skim over it a little bit before. It's got potential for standard as a rogue deck, but in single prize shenanigans, I think this is going to be great. So the first attack, Cellular Awakening. For each of your bench Pokemon, search your deck for a card that evolves from that Pokemon and evolve into it. Effectively just Evo TM for your whole board. And the second attack doing, base 40, then 40 more damage for each of your evolution Pokemon in play. So 6 total, including itself, plus the base damage. You're looking at 280 damage in a single prize format that's dealing with a lot of things. I think the only thing outside of your breakpoint number is Okie Dokie, because they could go Dark Energy attached to them, Luxury Cape attached on them. I think it gets up to 230 HP, but they're Psychic weak, so then you just go 280, double that. Yeah. It'll be fine. Yeah, honestly, Runiculus, very keen to see what people cook up with this in budget build battles. Single energy to attack too. It's going to be very easy to get it online. Another card I'm genuinely a bit scared of for the format is Elgum. So the attack on here, Slight Shift, lets you move an energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon to another of their Pokemon. Doesn't say from the active, so it's not like, oh, their thing in the active has energy, I'm just going to move it around and make them struggle. It's like, no, they're running Monkey Dory. They have dark energy on it. They're just reliant on Frostlass pinging themselves and my guys and handing off counters and like locking me in the active with corner or something, and I'm having a bad time. You just go, no, I don't care. I'm going to move that dark energy off your Monkey Dory onto your Frostlass. It's doing nothing there now. Great. It's not in the discard pile, so they can't get it back with Lana's Aid, Energy Retrieval, Night Stretcher. It's just, no, it's still on your board. It's just doing nothing for you. I kind of hate that, but like, it's also very cool. Even for standard, I could see this having some potential. I just don't know that it's quite as disruptive with the amount of things that do have energy acceleration, right? Like Ho-Oh Box, like, oh, you're moving energy around on my board. Cool, Arm Rouge, just move it back to the active. Or like Dragapult, you're moving energy around. There, it could be a little disruptive, right? Because it's like, oh, if they just have 2 fire energy in their deck, and it's like, well, 1 fire, 1 psychic on something, you move the fire off onto something that already has fire energy, then they're having to dig for like their Luminous energy, or yeah, they'd have to be Luminous energy or like Neo Uppers, and then you just use this again. You're just kind of like stacking all the energy on one thing. It's got potential, but I feel like in standard, likely easier to play around. For budget build battles though, I am genuinely concerned about this card. I don't know what its win condition will be, so like that's kind of where the deck would need to be refined, but it's definitely got potential. The next card we're going to talk about is Swirly Joe, also known as Whirlipede. The attack on here, Venoshock, does 30 base damage. Then if your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, 90 more. So it sounds very similar to the Among Us card, or Amoongus card, or the Brute Bonnet that's less of a brute. He's kind of softened up, but it can evolve into Scolipede, so having more health on here. And the attack then doing 90 base damage and 90 more damage if your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned. It does cost 2 energy to use it. It's a dark Pokemon though, so you could potentially use like Janine, get a dark energy attached from your deck onto this, attach return to this. And if your opponent ever hits you, Poison Point is going to poison them. So you're not reliant on Brute Bonnet to get the poison into play, poisoning yourself. It's like, hey, if you just hit me, you're poisoned, and then I just hit you back harder. You still probably play this with Brute Bonnet, but like, you technically don't need it. Next up is a new Poniard that we're getting that has corner. So we are seeing this attack on a few too many cards recently. We've got Maractus that has it. We've got Knackley that has it. We've got Ethan Pseudo-Widow that has it. Now we have a Poniard that has it. So I feel like they're kind of giving a lot of ways to slow down the format and just be like, just lock something in the active while you get set up. That's kind of interesting. There is a King Gambit that if your opponent's active Pokemon has 4 damage counters on it, it's just knocked out. So you could just corner something in the active and get it into range of the King Gambit to finish it off. Or potentially use Relicanth and just access corner with King Gambit until they're in range of the King Gambit to finish them off. There is also a new Bisharp in this set. Bisharp? B-Sharp? Or B-Sharp, right? Because it's like a bishop from chess, I feel like is what they're going for. But yeah, Bisharp. Finishing blow does 60 base damage. Then if your opponent's active Pokemon already has damage counters on it, 60 more. For budget build battles, doing 120. It's not bad, especially if they're already kind of beaten up. So yeah, interesting card to experiment with. I feel like it's mostly the Poniard, like the new basic. Just like, that's just the go-to option to use. Speaking of new basics, I think this is the only one we currently have. Axew? Do we have a Axew in standard right now? But it's got the attack Gather Strength. Search your deck for 2 basic energy cards, reveal them, put them into your hand. So if you just really want energy to accelerate out somehow, Axew has an attack that can use it. It's effectively your Earthen Vessel without having to discard a card from your hand. Not too bad. Of course, he's going to evolve too. He's not just a little dragon to be a little dragon forever. He's going to turn into a Fracture. It's just in here because it's also going to evolve. Not sure why I even bothered showing that one, I'll be completely honest. But he's going to evolve into Haxorus. Haxorus has the attack Crosscut, does 80 base damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon's an evolution Pokemon, does 80 more. Most evolution Pokemon have 170 to 180 at the high end. So Haxorus into Haxorus, you just need some slight damage modifier to deal with them, like a Vitality Band, maybe just a Gravity Mountain to lower their HP down and get them into range. But for the most part, like stage 1 Pokemon you're dealing with and most stage 2s you're dealing with. The second attack on here, Axe Bomber, costing a Fighting, Steel, and a Colorless. Makes it so if your opponent's active Pokemon's basic Pokemon, they're also knocked out. They just gone. Not even knocking them out with damage, so I think that does kind of get around some cards that say if they're knocked out by damage. But yeah, that's a little cheeky. It's going to be a great card to add into decks like Slowking that are just like, hey, ditch the top card of my deck, use an attack of that Pokemon. It gives Slowking access to 2 new attacks, right? It's like, I have a way to deal with evolution Pokemon, I have a way to deal with basic Pokemon. Cool beans. Big bulky basics, right? Like Bouffalant Snorlax combos or Bouffalant Cramorant. They can be tough for a lot of decks to deal with. Okidogi, they can be tough for decks to deal with. Haxorus just says, you're knocked out. I don't care how much health you have, you are gone now. So yeah, great attack for Slowking to be able to access, and honestly, as its own deck, I think it'll be fine. We've got Metang that can accelerate out Steel Energy. First attack just needs Colorless Energy. Metang can get that online easy enough. Second attack, you need, what, Luminous Energy or just a basic Fighting Energy and you're ready to go. So yeah, Haxorus, very keen to see what people cook up with you. And I know there is quite a few people that are quite excited about this card. Next up, we've got Unpheasant. It's not a very pleasant name. It's Unpheasant. First attack, costing 1 colorless energy to straight draw you 4 cards, so potentially there's some control shenanigans there. But second attack, doing 120 base damage. You're going to flip a coin if heads during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. So theoretically, you're invincible. You're not doing massive numbers, but you might just be invincible. So that's cool. They can gust around you, so that's a bit annoying. And this evolves from Pidove as the basic. There is a Pidove with an ability that if it has 30 damage on it, you can just search your deck for an Unpheasant and evolve into it. You don't even need Rare Candy to enable it. So you get a way to get that online, like something like Calamitous Snowy Mountain, or even like Team Rocket's Venture Bomb and something. Yeah, just get a stage 2 out and then potentially be invincible when you're using it. Pretty cool concept. All right, next we're going to talk about Fennel. Whoops, wrong one. Fennel, so heal 40 damage from each of your Pokemon. Just a great way to kind of help out against spread decks, against Frostlass, It is kind of a snowy last. But yeah, help out against Frostlass, or if your opponent's putting pings on you with Monkey Dories, you can kind of heal. It's all right. Great to help out into spread decks though, because then you're not having Shaman in play that's eating up a bench space. It's just, hey, into spread decks, I know I can eat a hit or two. Fennel just helps me get outside of range of being knocked out. They're hitting you with a Kurum though. Fennel's likely not doing enough. They're hitting you with a Hippowdon. Fennel's likely doing enough. And I will die on that hill that Hippowdon is. It's not the worst card. Not the best card, not the worst. So apologies guys, just gonna have a quick sip of the water. Throat's getting a little dry. Jam Jar, you can even move all the energy onto one specific guy, then KO it and remove all the energy from play. That's about the Elgum, I'm guessing. Apologies, missed that message. Virizion. I kind of like this for budget build battles. So the attack on here, Giga Drain, does 30 base damage. Then you're going to heal from this Pokemon the same amount of damage you did to your opponent's active Pokemon. So if you're hitting them for weakness, could be a decent bit. Or if you're pumping up your grass Pokemon's damage output, could be healing a decent bit. So you've got Lilligant that increases the damage output of grass Pokemon by 20. 2 of those in play, you're getting Virizion up to doing 70 damage. Give Virizion like a Luxury Cape or a Bravery Charm just to make it a little bit bulkier. Not too bad. Or even just give it some additional damage modifiers like Defiance Band or Vitality Band. Could be seeing this have potential. I don't know if it's enough to justify a full deck around it, but if you're already running a Lilligant deck, having an attack for 1 grass energy and potentially just having an attacker that can just like eat some hits, it seems fine. Next, we're going to talk about the Emboar. Mentioned it earlier in the video. Just a great way to kind of rush out fire energy and re-enable firebox decks. So for budget build battles, it does seem like a cool card to kind of play around with. I'm not too sure what attackers we have right now that would really be great with it, but in the future, I could definitely see that being a firebox. Heatmore also coming out in the set, having the attack Tongue Catch. You get to search your deck for up to 3 in any combination of fire Pokemon and basic fire energy cards. Put them into your hand. So yeah, getting Pokemon out of your deck, helping to thinning, helping to establish your board. Yeah, not bad. Buddy Poffins for some basic Pokemon. Get their evolutions with the attack, then into your next turn, just evolve up into them. As long as you don't get hit with an Iono or a Research, you're having a pretty good time. We've also got... Whoops. I think I'm jumping ahead with that one. Oh, no. Samurott, we did talk about this one earlier too. Having effectively Escape Rope as an ability, just moving your active to the bench, your opponent's active to their bench. The attack for this format, though, a little bit more relevant, scaling up by 50 damage, 3 energy on here, getting up to 180. You're dealing with most stage 2s. You need to go a little bit further, you just accelerate some more energy. For something like this, you could even be using like Crispins. Oh, these guys. Apparently it's getting a little bit late. But yeah, you could potentially just be using like something like Crispin to kind of get this online, or just charging it up with Baxcalibur. Being a little bit slower in that format isn't the end of the world. All right, what else we got? There's new Galvantula that I think could be a great partner for the Electric. So Electric just accelerating lightning energy onto this on the bench. Discharge doing a multiplier of 50 damage for each lightning energy attached to this Pokemon, but you do have to discard all of them when you do that. Then we've also got Sigilif. So Sigilif's attack Reflect makes it so during your opponent's next turn, this takes 40 less damage from attacks. Mostly interested in the second attack though, Telekinesis, which does 70 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. This damage isn't affected by weakness or resistance though, so you're not going to be able to like go like, hey, that Okidogi on the bench, I do 140 to it. You're just doing 70. Pretty good sniper though for energy accelerating or psychic accelerating decks. So Xatu as an example, you just be able to go Xatu, attach for turn, switch into Sigilif, snipe out a pre-evolution Pokemon, could be very useful. Obviously Shaman will be blocking that though, so something to be mindful of, but for budget build battles, I could see this being kind of relevant tech attacker to be able to slot into a Xatu deck. Gothitelle I think will be good for this format as well. So the disruption from the ability, putting your opponent down to a 3-card hand, pretty solid. And then the attack, just doing 180, pretty good number, and only needing 2 energy to use it. It's not very hard to pull that off. So Could definitely see that becoming a deck in the format. Another new deck in the format I would think is going to be Gigalith. So this one kind of reminds me of Aggron, which we have seen see a lot of success in budget build battles. Gigalith having the Revenge Cannon attack, doing a multiplier of 20 for each damage counter on your benched fighting Pokemon. So Aggron did 50 damage for each of your damaged Pokemon in play, so it didn't care about the type, but did get capped at 300 damage, which capped at 300 damage sounds fine. That's a very big number. But this one, you can obviously just like scale up as high as you need to go. You'd be running this with an attacker that hits all your bench Pokemon, so I'm kind of thinking Steelix. Steelix for 1 steel energy does 130 to the active, 30 damage to all your bench guys. Steelix evolves from Onix, which is a fighting Pokemon. The Gigalith and all its pre-evolutions are fighting types, so it's just like, hi, Steelix hits, pings Onix, pings for Boldors or Frog and Roller, whatever the pre-evolution's called. And then your Gigalith's like, sweet. That's 150, or that's, yeah, 15 damage counters on my bench. Not bad. Obviously, the Gigalith would then go into the active, goes down to 12 damage counters on your bench, but you're still doing 240 damage for 1 fighting energy. And then you'd have ways to get more damage counters onto your own guys. A little bit risky, though, because if you do run into a spread deck of some sort, they're going to have a field day with you, but it's definitely got potential. Now, the next up, we've got the Archeops. So we did talk about this earlier in the video, but for budget build battles, I do think it has potential as well. Likely be pairing this mainly with like Process and Monkey Dory and just doing like devolution shenanigans, just softening things up, devolving them, taking KOs without even taking attacks. So, a little bit cheeky, a little bit disruptive, a little bit evil. And you know what? I'm kind of for it. Also, Zoroark, mentioned it earlier, but for single prize shenanigans, I feel like it's going to be good. Mindjack for 1 dark energy, getting up to 150 damage potentially. That's enough to deal with most things in the format. Second attack, Foul Play, letting you choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks to use as this attack. Could be useful into certain matchups as well. We have Ignition Energy to get that online in one go, or you could even just splash this into decks that do have Energy Acceleration and Dark Energies. Like if you're running Monkey Dory, you've got Dark Energy or Luminous Energy in the deck to enable Mindjack. And if you've got Energy Acceleration, you can enable the second one. So could definitely see this being a card that comes up in the meta. For budget build battles, at least. For standard format, a little bit mixed on it. Another new attacker for the format is going to be Ferrothorn. I think this one genuinely has a lot of potential. Power Whip doing 20 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each energy attached to this. I think it's going to be a good introduction for like Metang decks, right? They accelerate out Steel Energy, usually focusing on just like one big basic attacker that just goes bonk to the active. This goes, hey, I can have a hefty guy in the active that's just sniping things off their bench. 4 energy on it to be doing 80 damage to snipe something off their bench. Not bad. Can be disrupting their board before they get online. And then if you want to just hit the active, then you just pivot into using Metal Claw to do 130. Is it going to be strong enough to be its own deck? I'm not too sure, but it's like a 1/1 line to slot into a Metang deck. Doesn't sound like a bad shout, to be honest. While we're on the topic of steel types, though, we do have the Klinklang. I think this will be good for budget build battles, just to add a little bit more tanky gameplay to steel decks. Sorry, guys, I need a little bit more water. That's the good stuff. Yeah, but Klinklang having the ability Gear Coating, each of your Pokemon in play with any steel energy attacks take 20 less damage from your opponent's Pokemon's attacks. So budget build battles limiting you to 2 copies of a card with the same name. You get 2 Klinklangs out, your steel Pokemon take 40 less damage. You get Full Metal Lab out, they take another 30 less, it's 70 less damage. In a single prize format, being able to reduce damage output by 70 can be pretty relevant when things are doing, yeah, like 150. Knocking that down to 80, letting your guys eat multiple hits, and then potentially healing them with cards like Monkey Dory or Picnic Basket. Yeah, could be very relevant. So surviving an attack is just as relevant as taking a one-shot, right? If you can deny your opponent taking a prize on their turn because they just can't one-shot you, that's good. And then you need a way on your turn to be able to take a prize because you can one-shot them. So Klinklang, I definitely see this having potential in the format. Next up, we do have the Stoutland, which Someone's gonna cook up some crazy control stuff with this. You get to flip 3 coins. For each heads, put a card from your discard pile into your hand. It doesn't specify a card type, so it could be energy, it could be Pokemon, it could be stadiums, it could be items, supporters. So yeah, I feel like control decks can be heavily enabled by this. The fact that it is on coin flip, though, does kind of limit it a little bit. It's on a stage 2, also kind of hurts, and you need 2 energy to be able to use this. So I don't know, it's got potential. It's definitely got potential, but it's kind of got that Hail Mary gameplay to it as well. Jam, you wish you could use this? Yeah, it's not quite your Ursaluna, hey? Ursaluna was like a guaranteed returning a card from the discard pile back, right? The Antique Plume Fossil, this is in here because we mentioned the Archeops. And then we've got Hilda, I think is also just going to be a good card for this format. Good card just in general. Great card for budget build battles as well. And then, of course, Ignition Energy, I think will be very good. Wugtrio, I think, becomes a relevant deck finally. Also, Porygon Z gets another out for energy to, like, get online very quickly. Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool. Adam, people actually play with TCG? Yeah, so many people play with TCG. I think it's the biggest it's been in years, if not ever. Like, we're having events with thousands of people going. Do you not play with TCG? Do you just collect them? Or are you just aware that it exists and somehow ended up here? I don't know. How do you enjoy the game, Adam? Or the hobby? All right. And I think that will be it for... Yeah, that's it for the cards that I would say for budget build battles for the buy list. So the full list of the cards would be that, which it looks like a lot. And it is a lot. But that's because most of these are effectively just their own decks to come out of it, right? If you want to build a Lilligant, you can. If you want to build a Moongus, you can. If you want to build a Firebox, there's the Embor line. If you want to build Tortuga, it's there. In terms of like staples for budget build battles, there's the Alola Mola, there's the trainers, the energies, the... Yeah, I was going to say the tools, but no, yeah, trainers kind of covers it. So it's mostly the trainers and the energies. I'd highly recommend everyone make sure they get themselves a playset, and if any of those attackers kind of caught your interest, there you go. The full list of cards, so if you watch the full buy list video that we're putting together right now, and you're like, I just want every single card that has potential from Black Bolt and White Flare, that's gonna be this, which again, it looks like a lot of cards. I am by no means saying you need to get every one of those, and honestly, I would highly discourage you from picking up every one of those. It is a lot. You know your budget. I don't. If you want every single thing just so that, hey, like down the line, you want to try out this deck and you just want to make sure that it's actually on hand so you can play it, there you go. If you want the cards that seem like they have genuine competitive potential, and just for the standard format, the stuff for budget build battles and GLC, we've kind of gone through that. Those lists are separate. Pick the cards you want for that, but just for competitive for standard, I'd say it's these ones. So the Petalil, just to have for potential Lilligants, right? There's the one that increases the damage output of fire and grass Pokemon. I think that basic Petalil could be relevant in the future. The Victini, I think, could be relevant. The Firebox enabling Embor as like a 2-1-2 line could be good to hang on to. Reshiram as a late game attacking option, and Zekrom for the same thing. The Samurott, potentially, I think it's a good one to get a couple copies of just to play it safe. Alola Mola's in there. Jellicent, 100%. Like that just becomes an instant include in Gardevoir decks. Runiculus, I think, as a single prize shenanigans deck, there's some potential there. Meloetta, I think, is going to be a good option, and then the other ones in there as well. Pretty much all the trainer cards and energy cards from this set seem relevant. Not needing super high counts of them, most of them just being like 1 or 2 ofs in lists. Like Air Balloon, I'd say get a couple copies just to play it safe, and because you're likely going to want to put that into multiple decks. And then Hilda, needing 2 copies of that, and the new energies, I'd say just get 4 copies of them. Now, that's, like I said, the ones that I would say have competitive potential for the standard format. That would kind of be what I'd more so recommend you get. Like I said, though, you know your budget. I don't. We all have different interests and different outcomes we're looking for from this game. Maybe there's just one deck you care about. Just get the cards for that one deck, right? Maybe you just want the trainers because it's like, hey, I'm just going to add these into decks as they come out. I don't need new attackers. I don't need new tech Pokemon. That's fine. Put together your own buy list with the information you've got from this video and with your own opinion that you formed by watching this video. As an example, like this is realistically the cards I'm going to be buying. I'm not going to be buying every single card I put on that buy list because I don't think I'm going to be playing all those decks. There's just not enough time in the day and they don't always interest me, to be completely honest. This is going to be what I'm after. I'm going to get the Reshiram because the Ho Ethan box seems interesting to me, and for Charizard, I think it's a great option to have and just a generally good card. Like in the future, there'll be other fire decks that this can be easily slotted into. Volcarona as a damage modifier, I think is interesting. Alola for its recovery potential is really good. Emolga, I like him. I think it's got some potential just for early game setup. Realistically, is it going to get played heaps? Probably not, but just as one of those cards that is like in the future, hey, I just need something to help enable my deck. Emolga could be that. The Electric Engine, it's just solid. That's just going to be a card that's good the entire time it's in rotation. Get yourself a play set. It will see play. Zekrom, it's just an instant include in Electric decks, right? It's a late game attacker you can be going into. Jellicent for Gardevoir. I've got Gardevoir built, just updating it for the standard meta. It's kind of the way to go. And Runiculus, I was a big fan of Torterra. Like if you're not new to this channel, if you've been around for a while, you know when Torterra was out, like that was my go-to deck. I've still got it sleeved up. Like I just like that. So Runiculus kind of being like a callback to that. And then all the trainer cards. Yeah, trainer cards 100% I would say get. That's why beginning of the video, we went through the staples. That's pretty much what I'm recommending everybody should be picking up. And then just use this, form your own opinion, put together your own buy list. Maybe there's some cards I've talked about today that you're like, Triple, those are heart garbage. Why did you put that word in my ear? Let me know in the comments. Maybe you just completely disagree. Or maybe there's some cards that I left out and you're like, why isn't this in here? Right? Why didn't you have Venipede as a staple? For good reason. But no, I'm just kidding. Maybe that is genuinely your opinion. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hitting that like button is always appreciated, and make sure to subscribe so you can keep up with the shenanigans. Till next time though, stay golden, you Goombas.